right-wing prophet Russell Brand absolutely destroying Jordan Peterson over Elliot Page. What the
Hey, with me, Russel Brand.
The things that I wanted to start with, given Elon Musk's recent takeover of Twitter, is whether he is a distinct and discrete category of a billionaire.
Okay, they're talking about Elon Musk and how he's not just one of those other billionaires. He's the billionaire that will save the world. He's Batman, he's Superman, he's Iron Man.
How is he different? How is he the same? And how will Elon Musk's position at Twitter alter your position on Twitter?
Well, that remains to be seen. I'm still banned. So that hasn't changed. I mean, he's suggested that he might reinstate Trump. Whether or not that means he'd reinstate me is a matter of question. It isn't obvious to me that the people who run the social media networks know exactly how to regulate them with any degree of utility. You know, I've probably read 100,000 comments online, or maybe more, and I've tried to read them with a psychologist's eye. And there are some things going on online that are, I think, that actually pose a threat to the integrity of the culture itself. The biggest problem that I can see is that the large online platforms allow anonymous troll demons to rampage through society with no cost to themselves. And I can identify these people quite accurately now. This will make a number of the people who are watching and listening uncomfortable because they'll be in the list of people who do this sort of thing. So the first thing is they have an anonymous name. The second thing is the anonymous name usually has something psychologically significant about it in a very negative direction. So it's self-denigrating, or it's demonic, or it's otherwise offensive, and purposefully so. And then the people who are utter cowards, likely to be narcissists and Machiavellians, resentful people sitting in their basement at home, dwelling on their misery and doing everything they can to spew toxicity out into the world. Alone in their bedrooms, they're just isolated people who aren't causing any trouble. But as soon as they multiply themselves millions of times using this incredible, powerful computer technology, they're not even human anymore. In my estimation, they're literally a demonic force. And I mean that in a technical sense, right? You and I aren't exactly you and I.
In my estimation, they're literally a demonic force, and I mean that in a technical sense. That's what he just said, right?
They're not even human anymore. In my estimation, they're literally a demonic force. And I mean that in a technical...
So you and Matt Walsh both think that we, the liberals, the leftists, the trans, are a demonic force and Satanists. Cool, let's go.
...sense, right? You and I aren't exactly you and I.
No, you don't understand. That dream he had about his grandma, that was a demonic force.
...in this conversation, because we're amplified.
When he let her have her way.
Hundreds of times, or thousands of times, or hundreds of thousands of times. And so we're not just human, we're androids in some sense operating in a virtual space. Okay. And these online trolls have that power because they have access to an audience that they would never gather by their own merits. They are saying things that are derisive and inflammatory, and that would absolutely 100% get them punched if they ever said it in public. Imagine that there's a hierarchy of unconstrained people. And
would absolutely get them punched. Oh God, he's just really angry at trans people and now wants to punch them.
There's a variety of people who are very unconstrained, but in normal social discourse would be able to keep themselves under control because of the controls that are there in normal social discourse. You lift those controls and they just go off. And so that's what we're seeing online. And that has to be stopped. I think the large tech companies should be required to put in know your customer laws. They should ban anonymous accounts, but in this way. Imagine that you have a section for comments where it's real human beings that are verified, and you have another section underneath that's for anonymous troll demons. And if you want to go visit their hell and see what their resentful minds are spewing into the public landscape, then you can. Otherwise, you stick to the real human beings. And I don't know if Musk and the other people who are running...
Freedom of speech, they're taking away your freedom of speech, but also anonymity online is literally the devil. Being anonymous and not having your real name on your profile means you are literally demonically possessed. But freedom of speech.
The big social media networks understand the pathology that's associated with this.
Jordan, when was the last time you tidied your room? Your bookshelf looks messy, Jordan. I think you need to straighten your back and tidy your room.
Online commentary well enough to control it. So we'll see.
What I would like to draw your attention to, still sort of within the broad rubric of looking at Musk's acquisition of Twitter and how that may play out and how it may affect you personally. I was myself struck with, I think the tweet that you were banned for was sort of like commenting on Elliot Page. How do we prioritize compassion, kindness, love? And can't this basic palette of principles prevent us from getting into conflict around these ideas?
Oh.
Well, it isn't obvious to me that love.
Oh. I mean, I know the title was They Have Heated Gender Debate, but I didn't actually expect it to go there. Russell Brand, the human being in him, is struggling. I didn't think I'd ever heard him say anything transphobic. In all of his crazy fear-mongering over the last few years, I don't remember him going on any transphobic rants. But I think this is the first time he's spoken up, and I didn't expect him to speak up on this side of the argument. Pleasantly surprised. Stop clock and all, but pleasantly surprised.
Love can be
love, and can't this?
Yeah, he's like really angry about this because he likes and respects Jordan Peterson, but he clearly is disgusted by the Elliot Page shit. Wow.
I think the tweet that you were banned for was sort of like commenting on Elliot Page. How do we
Elliot Page
prioritize compassion, kindness?
There was a hard cut there as well.
On Elliot Page, how do we prioritize compassion, kindness, love? And can't this?
And now he's pissed off. He said Elliot Page, there's a hard cut, and now Russell is pissed off. I reckon Jordan Peterson scoffed and was like, you mean Ellen? And Russell was like, no, we're not having that. We're not having that. I don't know what happened there to be precise, but something happened there. This is not going how I expected. Pleasantly surprised.
Basic palette of principles prevent us from getting into conflict around these ideas.
Well, it isn't obvious to me that love can be reduced to compassion at all, because for a variety of reasons. First of all, I think love is a multidimensional virtue.
No, love in the Bible is described as God's compassion for man. What the fuck? What?
And there's many other virtues than compassion. Think about it this way, Russell. Imagine that the purest expression of compassion is
heavenly virtues. One of the heavenly virtues is love.
Is the love of a mother for a true infant. We could really think about that as true compassion, 100% compassion. And the reason for that is that if you have an infant from birth to, say, 6 months old, nothing the infant...
No, we could view that as biological predeterminism. We can view that as a biological imperative. We can view that as the selfish gene. Come on, you should know that.
...does is ever to be questioned. The proper response to the infant is, whatever the cause of their distress, you immediately prioritize its reduction. But then as the child starts to develop, and as soon as it becomes capable of its own voluntary movement, as soon as it becomes ambulatory, its nervous system starts to change, of course. But then there are other elements that have to be introduced into the relationship to make it a relationship of proper love. And some of that's judgment, which is often considered antithetical to compassion. And some of it's encouragement, and encouragement has a fair bit of judgment in it, because when you're encouraging someone, you're not exactly being compassionate for who they are. You're doing what you can to facilitate who they could be. And what you're doing constantly when you're encouraging someone is prioritizing who they could be over who they are. And that's an element of judgment. And that judgment, you might say, if you're not thinking about it precisely from the religious perspective, is your own ability to decide which parts of you should go. Then the question is, are you compassionate for who you are? Or are you compassionate for who you could be? And the second is just as important. Or
you're not talking about compassion. You're talking. What the fuck are you even talking? You're not. I was going to say you're talking about the nature of giving and generosity and selflessness versus selfishness, but he's not even really talking about that. It's just word souping.
Maybe more important.
And when that's applied to the self, I can see that the requirement for this judgment, the great success you've had in, clean your room, stand up straight, these kind of...
All right. You sound like a Hassan head right now.
Of edicts offered to young men or young people who require
basic self-help
discipline. I can see the success of that. But Jordan, I feel that when it becomes an outward strike of like, this person should not have done this thing, this is the impact these actions will have on the culture, this will lead to this kind of denigration, this will lead to decisions that are, in my view, palpably wrong. I feel that this is where we have to redress an imbalance around compassion. I feel that Elliot Page should be able to do whatever Elliot Page wants to do, and that my only role is to say, I recognise that I don't understand, and why would I understand? There are less obvious things that you could never understand about me. They're less evident and obvious, and for me, the basic principle of kindness and compassion is going to be my guide when dealing with Elliot.
Oh no, new right-wing prophet Russell Brand absolutely destroying Jordan Peterson over Elliot Page. What the fuck am I listening to? I'm rewinding a sec because that was slay. This is the most passionate I've seen Russell Brand about anything in ages. He's not doing his usual hippy-dippy guru. He's just speaking right now.
Be able to do whatever Elliot Page wants to do, and that my only role is to say, I recognise that I don't understand, and why would I understand?
He's not using the overly complicated vocabulary, you know, he's not randomly, there's no shit here. He's just talking.
There are less obvious things that you could never understand about me. They're less evident and obvious. And for me, the basic principle of kindness and compassion is going to be my guide when dealing with Elliot Page and when posting something about Elliot Page.
This isn't performative. There's none of the bullshit. He's not trying to be clever with his words. He's just talking. He's not thought this through. He's angry and is just talking. Again, none of you used to be Russell Brand fans. I did used to be a Russell Brand fan. This is completely different.
You have recourse to the idea of, what do I want Elliot Page to feel?
This is like, have you ever watched him on Question Time? Do you remember when he used to go on Question Time and battle Nigel Farage? This is the same when he used to speak to Nigel Farage. Angry, impassioned, and actually very plain spoken, not using 7-syllable words, just speaking like a regular bloke and actually killing it.
Posting something about Elliot Page, I do have recourse to the idea of, what do I want Elliot Page to feel? Happy, accepted. That's what I want Elliot Page to feel. You know, and if there are aspects of that I don't understand.
You know, he's saying, I could never understand them, but there's aspects of my life that they'll never understand. Very simple aspects of my life that they'll still never understand, and that's fine. That's humanity.
Then I'm willing to take the hit.
Yeah, you have to recognise good arguments even when they come from people we dislike, and that was fantastically well said. And it's the first time it's been, this is the thing, Jordan Peterson doesn't talk to people that don't like Jordan Peterson. He only talks to Jordan Peterson fans these days. This is the first time there's been an opportunity for this conversation. There's still a human in Russell. He's not just a cog in the machine. There is still a human there.
When you think about your behavior on your YouTube channel,
because remember, this isn't just like something small to challenge Jordan Peterson on. Think about this. This isn't a small thing. Elliot Page, the thing that got Jordan Peterson banned from Twitter, the trans question, the TQ, right? This is the biggest thing for Russell Brand to actually speak out on. This is true. He's not right-wing. Russell Brand isn't right-wing. He's a libertarian. He's not a liberal. He's a libertarian. Ergo, kind of anarcho-capitalist / anarcho-communist, somewhere in between. But basically freedom for freedom's sake to every extreme. And that includes freedom from harm and not doing others unnecessary harm.
Here.
When you think about your behavior on your YouTube channel,
I used to like Russell Brand, and I'd been forgetting why I used to like him. But this is the Russell that used to actually speak on British fucking Question Time to politicians and challenge them and hold them to account in a manner that the public appreciated. This was the Russell that started Russell's True News before he fell down the conspiracy pipeline. Pandemic broke him. Maybe he's making a return to normality. I'm not going to put any faith in that yet, but
I appreciate this.
You're spending a lot of time in public criticism, and going after large corporations, going after those who are engaged in fascist collusion, and I think rightly so. I think that you're an extremely useful voice in that
So many cuts in this. I need to watch the whole thing.
regard, and you're a critical voice, and you're a critical comedic voice, which is a good kind of critical voice, and not exactly compassionate, right? Because you're also using creativity on the humor side.
Russell Brand's Ponderland is one of the funniest things to ever exist on E4. Russell Brand's Ponderland was only like 6 episodes long, I think, maybe 9 episodes long. Funniest shit ever. Very hard to find now. Secondly, Russell Brand on Question Time, based. Russell Brand on Have I Got News For You, Magnifi, fucking based. And Russell Brand protesting for workers' rights, unions, gay rights, all that stuff his entire life, incredibly based. Russell Brand, the last 2 years, a Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, fucking right-wing pipeline psycho. I think he could still come back to the left. I think the right is now going to get too toxic for him. He's too soft ultimately. He's not a hateful person. Russell isn't hateful. He's paranoid, which the right plays into, but he's not hateful.
To make your point, because useful voice in that regard in public criticism behavior.
So that I don't understand, then I'm willing to take the hit.
When you think about your behavior on your YouTube channel, you're spending a lot of time in public criticism, and going after large corporations, going after those who are engaged in fascist collusion, and I think rightly so. I think that you're an extremely useful voice in that regard, and you're a critical voice, and you're a critical comedic voice, which is a good kind of critical voice, and not exactly compassionate, right? Because you're also using creativity on the humor side to make your point, and you're doing it in a playful way, and I think that playful criticism is the hallmark of the master critic. And I think the joker and the jester in that regard are master critics. But that's not compassion, right? That's a different virtue. And often it's very, very pointed. You do act as a social critic in many, many ways. And you do.
The way this has been edited, I need to watch the whole thing. Fuck.
Leaving it with comedy, and I think that's extraordinarily appropriate. It's part of what's given you such a broad voice. And that criticism is absolutely necessary. Now let's speak about Elliot Page more specifically. So the first thing I'd like to bring up is the fact that in the UK, the Tavistock Clinic was recently closed. And that was the biggest clinic doing gender transformation surgery that operated in the British
Fake news. You're going to report this wrong, aren't you?
world. 1,000 of the 19,000 kids have now launched a lawsuit.
No, they haven't.
For medical malpractice.
You're getting this
And when
wrong.
Elliot Page
You're getting this wrong.
went online and showed off his or her new chest, she or he got 1.7 million Instagram likes. So then the question is, okay, compassion. Well, I think Elliot Page
1.7 million likes, 8 billion people, less than 1% of the population. Sounds about right. Because all the trans people are online, to be fair, and all the trans allies are online. Sounds about right.
stepped over the line from victim to perpetrator, because when girls hit puberty, their negative emotion spikes and they develop bodily image problems, because neurotic, and that would be negative emotional experience for women, is extremely tightly tied to body image. And so if you're a girl who is undergoing the hormonal changes that are going to elevate your negative emotion, which is what happens at puberty, you're going to be focused on body image. And if you're an unpopular girl and you're awkward socially, the probability that you're going to think something's wrong with your body is almost 100% if you're female.
So I can see what makes you angry about it. It's your analysis and it's your opinion that it's a powerful influencer and it's going to lead people to make decisions that are going to...
I love it when a clinical, a analytical psychologist spouts stuff like, if you're a woman, it's almost 100% likely you're going to have body issues. That's so useful to hear from a person like that, isn't it?
Going to be detrimental to their lives. But the evident and palpable anger, I feel, diminishes your position because now anger is in the conversation. I think you offer a great deal that is valuable and necessary, but I feel beyond the value and necessity of honesty, authenticity, and
yeah, he'll tell you it's that way because of feminism telling women that they should work instead of make baby sandwiches.
And information that is underwritten by data and experience. I feel that it creates more opposition to approach a matter like this in the manner that you have done. What are we going to anchor ourselves to ultimately,
Russell.
Jordan, navigating this space? Are we going to be participants in creating more and more ossified and oppositional camps, or are we going to create cartilage between us so that we can move between the room that Jordan Peterson is in and a room that Elliot Page is in and say, look, I believe in love, and I know it's complicated. I think you're beautiful and full of love. I really believe in that. And then when I sort of hear people being dismissive of you, it upsets me. It upsets me. And I see how you arm them. I feel that you arm them by sort of, in their language, dead naming Elliot Page. And I feel like why would you do that? It isn't necessary. It isn't necessary. Of course, it's the statistics you've cited about the Tavistock Clinic appear to speak for themselves. Is there a way that we can handle this that would be more akin to how we might imagine Christ would handle it? Otherwise, what's the point of Christianity? What's the point of Christianity if we're not going to embody Christ in our behavior?
Let's
Look,
go.
everybody who's operating in the
Russell.
online space that we're all.
Russell! Russell! Who is this? Who is this Russell?
A way that we can handle this that would be more akin to how we might imagine Christ would handle it. Otherwise, what's the point of Christianity? What's the point of Christianity if we're not going to embody Christ in our behavior?
Look, everybody who's operating in the online space that we're operating is trying to get the tone right? And you do that in part by paying attention to the audience. And you do that by trying to see how people are responding, and not in a way that's pandering, but in a way that's open and attentive. And it's a very difficult thing to get right. So the question you're asking is, well, when is anger appropriate? When is it not appropriate? When is it only inflammatory? That's a really hard question to answer, to get that balance between judgment and encouraging acceptance right. I suppose part of the problem is we don't know exactly how emotions scale in an online environment, right? And definitely I found that even when I'm delivering very cutting material, as I just wrote an article for The Telegraph on
Even when I'm delivering very cutting edge material.
the upcoming privation that Europe is going to be facing and the rest of the world in the winter. And I tried to read it as calmly as I possibly could, even though it's extremely cutting. And the calm delivery seems to alienate fewer people and bring people in more than an angry delivery without any shift in semantic content. The right principle is probably something like minimal necessary force in your personal interactions and minimal necessary emotion in your online behavior. But it's hard to know exactly what that means. And it's not as if I think I've done it perfectly. I mean, you move like this towards that central line that hopefully is moving uphill.
Watch entire episodes on demand for free at rumble.com/Russel Brand.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson is very hard to follow, and it is done on purpose. He is a master of rambling and sounding smart whilst he does it. russellbrand.locals.com. Fuck. Subcutaneous. His show is called Subcutaneous with Jordan Peterson. Christianity Intolerance. How long were they talking? Oh, you have to click to log in. And if it's free, I might make an account later so I can watch that with you guys.
Anonymous troll demons.
Anonymous troll demons, surely a demonic force.
Thank you so much for watching, Loungers. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And maybe even leave a comment, you fucking arsehole.